Chosen. 1. Something is happening around you, but you haven't fully realized it yet. Small signs have begun to appear, as if the universe itself is trying to tell you something your mind hasn't yet deciphered. Doors that once opened now, close without explanation. People who walked beside you drift away without warning. Opportunities that seemed certain simply vanish before your eyes. There's an invisible weight on you, a strange silence, as if something is being rearranged. Behind the scenes of your existence, what if I told you that God is behind this, that He looked at you and changed His mind? It sounds frightening, and it is. But before your heart is consumed by fear, listen carefully. This change of heart isn't a punishment. It's redemption. It doesn't mean He rejected you, but that He saw something no one else saw. And now He's coming, not to punish you, but to transform you. Before you continue this journey of discovery, I want you to commit to this transformation. In the comments, leave the number 777 to affirm that you're ready for this spiritual shift and that you understand the time of limitation has come to an end. Take this moment to also leave a like below, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss what's about to be revealed. The idea that God might reconsider a choice can be unsettling, but it's not new. In ancient times, prophets trembled when the Creator decided to rewrite the destiny of entire nations. Kings were dethroned, armies dissolved, cities marked for destruction received mercy at the last moment. God never makes mistakes, but He can alter a plan when He sees something needs realignment. And now, He's doing that with you. What seemed like a detour, a mistake, a failure, might actually be the greatest turnaround of your life. Something is moving in the spiritual realm, something breaking barriers and rewriting trajectories. You felt your life was about to change, but now that change is no longer a distant possibility. It's already begun. You weren't called for something small. You weren't born to live a limited existence. God didn't make a mistake in choosing you, but now He's realized He's limited you for too long. And that limitation is being undone. But before this transition is complete, there's one final test, one last moment of preparation. God is coming to correct this mistake. But the question remains, are you ready to bear the weight of what has always been rightfully yours? God never makes mistakes, but He adjusts. He observes, analyzes, and when He sees something needs to be changed, He acts. This has happened before, and it's happening now. When Jonah received a divine decree, God changed His mind at the last moment and spared Nineveh. When Moses hesitated before his calling, God shaped him until he was ready. When Saul failed as a king, God chose David. But what if this time the adjustment isn't because you failed, but because you've become too great for the original plan? What if the path laid out for you at the beginning was just preparation for something even greater? You thought you were being torn down, but in reality, you were being rebuilt. What seemed like a barrier was a temporary restraint. And now, God is loosening the chains because He's realized it's time to reposition you. Perhaps you've felt like you've missed opportunities, that some promises weren't fulfilled, that the years passed and nothing happened as it should have. But look closer. Did you really lose, or was God holding something back until you were ready? God's timing doesn't move like human timing. He sees the whole picture, while you only see fragments. What seemed like a delay was actually refinement. While you cried over closed doors, He was preparing portals for something you could never have imagined. God didn't regret choosing you, but He realized that what He gave you before wasn't enough for what you're destined to carry now. And that's why He's coming. But not in the way you expected. Chosen one, you've been conditioned to think that sudden changes mean mistakes, that when something falls apart, it's because something went wrong. But the truth is, not all destruction is a curse. Some structures need to be torn down before a greater one can be built. God allowed you to go through the wilderness not to weaken you, but to ensure that when the promised land arrives, you'll have the strength to inhabit it. Now you must decide. Will you keep looking at what was lost, or will you open your eyes to see that what's coming is infinitely greater than what's gone? God's change of heart isn't about cancellation. It's about expansion. He's moving you because your mission has grown, and that's why the battle has intensified. You thought the struggles you faced were meant to destroy you, but they were proof that you were being refined for something greater. The process wasn't easy, because preparation for something grand is never simple. The stronger the foundation, the more imposing the structure. You endured trials many wouldn't survive. You carried burdens few could bear. You faced pain that seemed unbearable. But all of it was necessary. God can't entrust something immense to someone unprepared. He's coming now to correct a mistake. But that mistake was never you. The mistake was underestimating the size of your calling. Now He's coming to rewrite your story, to elevate your position, to place you exactly where you should have been from the start. You may not have realized it yet, but the signs are all around you. Long ago, God began to shift the gears of your destiny, and every event, every loss, every silence wasn't random. It was all part of a repositioning. People who were once central to your journey suddenly became distant. What was once comfortable now feels tight, like clothes that no longer fit. Something inside you has changed. The way you see the world, your ambitions, your desires, even your view of yourself are no longer the same. You feel your identity being reshaped, as if you're being pushed into a new cycle you don't yet fully understand. But this isn't just another phase. This transition is something much greater. It's the Creator Himself rewriting your path for something even you couldn't have expected. But before this change is complete, there's a process happening in the spiritual realm. And this process cannot be interrupted. Chosen one, when God changes something, He doesn't just take you to a new level. He also severs ties with what no longer belongs in your journey. And this is one of the hardest moments. You'll feel like you're losing control, like things are going off track, like old connections are falling apart without explanation. Your mind will resist, because humans cling to familiarity even when they know they need to move forward. But God isn't asking for your permission. He's moving you. And the more you try to hold on to what should have been left behind, the more painful this process will be. When He decides to change your trajectory, nothing can stop what's coming. You may hesitate, but you can't escape. And this is exactly where many chosen ones struggle. Because the feeling of transition comes with a void, a disturbing silence. You pray, but hear no answer. You seek direction, but everything feels uncertain. You feel like someone placed in the middle of a desert without a map, unsure if you're heading the right way or if you've simply been forgotten. But listen closely. This silence isn't rejection. This silence is the pause before the great shift. It's in this exact moment that the old is being uprooted to make way for the new. God didn't change His mind about you to abandon you. He changed His mind because what He has for you requires a new identity, a new structure, a new mindset. And this is the point where many fail, because in the middle of transition, when they can't see the final destination, they give up. They return to the comfort zone, to what's safe, to what they already know. They believe they've lost something, when in reality, they were about to gain everything. But you can't be like them. You've come too far to regress. You can't abandon the process just because you don't yet fully understand what God is doing. There are moments in a chosen one's journey when there are no explanations, only trust. You must believe the change is happening, even without visible proof. And now we've reached the decisive moment. Chosen one, you must make a choice to keep carrying a past that no longer belongs to you, or to surrender to what God is about to do. There's no more time for hesitation. The realignment has already begun. And when God comes to correct something, He doesn't turn back. He doesn't negotiate with fear. He doesn't wait for you to be ready. He doesn't reduce the greatness of what He's planned just because you can't yet see the full picture. He acts. But if you resist, you'll suffer the weight of what should have been left behind. But if you surrender, then you'll see what not even your boldest dreams could have imagined. You need to understand something essential. When God decides to intervene, He doesn't ask for permission, He doesn't negotiate, and He doesn't explain everything immediately. This is because the change He's bringing to your life can't be understood from your current perspective. You're still tied to old references, to the limitations imposed on you, to the way you've learned to see yourself. But God has already seen what you can't yet see. He looked at your future and realized that what He gave you at the beginning wasn't enough. What seemed like the final destination was just the starting point. He shaped you for something greater. And now He's coming to correct the ties that still bind you to what no longer belongs to your identity. When a chosen one goes through a transition like this, everything around them begins to be restructured. Old cycles fall apart, connections are severed, unexpected situations arise. You may try to keep everything as it is, but you'll realize there are forces at work beyond your control. What once seemed solid now crumbles like sand between your fingers. But why? Because you can't carry what was built in your previous level into the new reality God is preparing. Growth requires letting go. You can't expand your journey while carrying unnecessary weights. God doesn't just want to reposition you. He needs to ensure you don't bring along what could compromise what's coming. And this is exactly where many fail, because the human heart resists the unknown. You've grown accustomed to certain things, certain people, certain structures that for a long time seemed safe. But now, God is pulling you out of that environment. Because He knows if you stay where you are, you won't reach what He's planned. That's why the discomfort has increased. That's why you feel like you're losing control. That's why there's a sense of misalignment, of being in a territory where nothing fits as it used to. But what seems like chaos is actually alignment. What seems like confusion is actually a calling. God is forcing this change because He regretted leaving you small for too long. We often think God simply watches as we walk, but the truth is, He acts actively. He reorders, removes, replaces, and expands. When you think you're being rejected, you're actually being redirected. When you feel forgotten, you're actually being reserved for something greater. The problem is, you're still trying to fit your vision into a space that no longer belongs to you. The old path has been erased because a new route is being drawn. God isn't correcting a mistake because He failed at something. He's correcting because He now sees that what He prepared at the beginning wasn't enough. What was once a promise has now become a decree. Now you need to decide, will you keep fighting against this process? Or will you surrender to what God is about to release over your life? This is not just any question, because this choice will define the coming years of your existence. Chosen ones who resist realignment end up becoming prisoners of the past. God will not wait for your hesitation to disappear to act. He has already moved. And now, if you don't advance, you will feel the weight of being stuck in a season that no longer belongs to you. But if you accept this change, you will see the doors that were closed open supernaturally. Because when God regrets limiting you, He compensates for that limitation with an unexpected acceleration. What once seemed impossible will now be inevitable. You need to understand the urgency of this moment. God has already decreed the change, and now everything around you is adjusting to this new reality. Nothing can remain as it was before. What seemed stable has already started to crumble. What seemed guaranteed is becoming uncertain. But this is not punishment. It is a transition. And in this kind of transition, there is no way to stay in the same place. The time to decide has passed. Now, the only choice left is whether you will move with God or remain stuck in a cycle that no longer belongs to you. Because when God changes something, resistance only prolongs the process and intensifies the pain. You feel it in your soul, an unrest that won't disappear, a call that cannot be ignored. Your mind may try to rationalize, but something inside you already knows there is no turning back. Everything that brought you here was essential, but it no longer serves the future ahead. Your spirit is being prepared for a new level, but your flesh still struggles to remain in the comfort of the known. This internal battle is normal, but you cannot let fear paralyze you. Because if you hesitate too long, you will see others occupying the places that were destined for you. God has already opened the doors, and now it's up to you to walk through them. And if you look around, you will see that some have already started to move. Chosen ones who understood what God is doing are already experiencing radical changes. Some have been led to new directions, others have had unexpected connections, and others have been taken out of environments that were limiting them. And those who accepted this transition have noticed something powerful: divine acceleration. Because when God regrets limiting someone, He doesn't just remove the barriers, but compensates for lost time. What should have taken years will happen in months. What seemed distant will become imminent, but only for those who are ready to move forward. And this is where many fail, because when they realize the change is happening, they try to hold on to what is familiar. They struggle to keep things that should have already been left behind. They insist on staying in places where God is no longer present. And then, when everything around them starts to crumble, they panic. But what they don't understand is that the collapse is not a punishment. It is a push. God is not destroying your life. He is destroying the walls that kept you small. He is freeing you from what you would not have the courage to abandon on your own. And the only way to go through this moment without unnecessary pain is to accept what has already been decreed. You need to understand that there is a time for everything. The time to remain small has passed. The time to wait for confirmations is over. You've already received the signs, had the dreams, felt the unrest. Now what remains is to act. There is no more room for doubt, because every moment of hesitation now will be detrimental. God is not just moving you, He is disconnecting you from what no longer serves you. And if you insist on staying, you will feel the weight of disconnection. What once seemed like a safe environment will become suffocating. What once was comfortable will become intolerable. But not because something went wrong, but because God decided you no longer belong in that place. And what if you try to go back? What if you insist on staying in a cycle that has already ended? Then you will find out what happens when someone fights against a divine decree. Because chosen ones who refuse to move forward don't just lose opportunities, they lose their identity. If God is calling you to a higher level, but you insist on staying where you are, your essence will begin to fade. You will feel a growing emptiness, an inexplicable dissatisfaction, a sense that something is missing. You were created for more, but you're trying to settle for less. And the longer you stay still, the harder it will be to get back on track. God did not call you for stagnation. He called you for expansion, and this is the part many ignore. God did not change His mind to punish you. He changed His mind because He realized you were ready even before you realized it. You may look at your life and see limitations, but God looks at you and sees someone capable of carrying something much bigger. That's why He interrupted your plans. That's why He closed doors. That's why He cut connections. It wasn't to hurt you, but to prepare you. What once seemed like rejection now needs to be understood as redirection. But for this to happen, you must do something that few chosen ones have the courage to do. Accept what you don't fully understand yet. This choice cannot be made lightly. Many have passed through this same moment, but hesitated. They resisted the process. They fought against something that had already been decreed. And because of that, they lost what was rightfully theirs. But God does not want that to happen to you. He brought you here. He allowed you to understand what is happening. So you won't make the mistake of thinking this is all just a coincidence. Chosen ones who ignore the signs waste precious time. Chosen ones who delay the transition end up falling behind. Chosen ones who refuse to expand are replaced. And God does not want to replace you. He wants to elevate you. But He can only do that if you accept who you truly are. Because this is the truth you took so long to understand. You were never small. You were never insignificant. You were never ordinary. You always carried something others didn't have. You were always marked for something bigger. From the beginning, your journey was different. What others did easily for you required a high price. What seemed simple for others, for you, was a constant struggle. But this happened because God never designed you to live in the shallow. He never prepared you for an ordinary life. And now, He's coming to pull you out of anonymity, to raise you from where you were hidden, to reveal to you what has always been inside of you, but was suppressed for so long. You can feel it now, the weight of this truth, the confirmation of something you've always known, but never had the courage to acknowledge. God never regretted choosing you. The only regret He had was letting you walk for so long without seeing your true greatness. But that's over now. Now He's coming to show you who you've always been. Now He's coming to put you in the place that's always been yours. Now He's coming to remove every limitation, every fear, every doubt that kept you from taking possession of what was already reserved for you. There are no more barriers. There are no more excuses. There is no more time to hesitate. Now you need to rise. Chosen one, understand this. The time to wait is over. The time to doubt is over. The time to believe your story was small is over. God is already moving. He is already acting on your behalf. But there is something only you can do. Accept your true identity. Because now, there is no more room for doubt. Either you accept who you really are, or you will lose what is already being released. The choice is still in your hands. But if you've listened this far, you know there's no turning back. The new has already arrived. Now you need to decide. Will you take possession of what has always been yours? Or will you waste this unique opportunity? Now that you know who you truly are, you need to understand what this means. Because accepting your true identity is not just about feeling special. It's about carrying a purpose that demands maturity and courage. God is not repositioning you to give you comfort, but to give you influence. He is not elevating you just so you can be seen, but so you can be used. And that's why this transition has been so intense, because the responsibility being entrusted to you is greater than anything you've experienced before. God corrected a mistake, and that correction cannot be wasted. He waited too long for you to assume your true role. And now everything around you will begin to respond to this new reality. People who once saw you as someone ordinary will start to notice something different in you. Environments that once seemed closed will open unexpectedly. The limitations that once held you back will disappear. But not because something magical happened, but because you're finally moving in the right direction. The resistance you felt, the weight you carried, the sense that something was wrong, all of that was a sign that you were trying to remain in a space that no longer fit you. Now that God has freed you from that, nothing can stop you. And it's exactly at this point that new battles will arise. Because when a chosen one awakens, they don't just receive new opportunities, they also attract new oppositions. People who never cared about you will start to observe you. Voices that once ignored you will begin to question your progress. Some will try to keep you stuck in the past, others will doubt what God is doing in your life. But none of that matters, because those who try to resist your rise are not fighting against you, but against the very divine decree. And no one can stop what God has already determined. The only thing that can stop you now is doubt, insecurity, the fear of not being capable. But listen carefully. If God changed his mind about you, who are you to question? Who are you to doubt what he has already confirmed? If he is saying it's time, if he is already moving the pieces in your favor, then there's no room for hesitation. You may not feel ready, but the truth is, it's never been about how you feel. It's been about what God knows you're capable of carrying. He didn't reposition you by accident. He did it because your time has come. Now, there are no more excuses. There are no more barriers. There is no turning back. You can try to ignore this, pretend nothing is happening. But this truth has already been planted inside of you. You will never be the same again. What has been revealed cannot be forgotten. The only choice left is to act. God expanded you because the world needs what you carry. He placed you in this moment because your time has come. The only question left is, will you embrace this new identity, or will you waste the greatest opportunity of your life? The choice has been placed before you. The time to wait is over. The time to hesitate no longer exists. Now, there are only two paths left. Either you move forward and assume the position God prepared for you, or you hide and waste everything He has already released in your favor. But know this, the call cannot be revoked, but the opportunity can be passed to another. God never leaves a mission unfinished. If a chosen one refuses to fulfill the purpose, He raises another in their place. You might deceive yourself into thinking you still have time, but the truth is, the time has already come, and God is already moving. You can continue ignoring, but every day of hesitation pulls you further away from what is already prepared. Either you accept now, or you will see all of this delivered to another. Now you know the truth. God didn't change His mind because you failed. He changed His mind because He saw you as greater than the original plan. He realized there was more in you, that the anointing on your life was greater, that what He entrusted to you could no longer be limited. But now the decision is in your hands. You have no more excuses. The new has already begun. The heavens have already opened. The path is ready. The only thing left is for you to take the first step, because God has already made the decision. Now it's your turn. Chosen one, now everything is before you. No barrier can hold you back. No doubt can imprison you. No opposing voice can nullify what God has already decreed. But the only thing He cannot do for you is take that first step. The call is made. The mission is released. The future is waiting. And now, the universe will watch what you do next. Remember, God did not regret choosing you. He just realized that the greatness within you required a much larger plan. And that plan starts now. If this message spoke to you, leave a like and subscribe to the channel to continue receiving content like this. Turn on notifications so you don't miss anything, because what's coming next will be even deeper. Now, write in the comments, "I accept my identity," so the spiritual world knows you've understood the call. And share this video, because there may be another chosen one who needs to hear this before it's too late. And if you want to continue on this journey, don't stop now. Watch the video on the screen, or dive into the playlist of the Secrets of the Chosen. What you discover next could be the final piece to unlock your destiny. Thank you for joining us until the end. Stay firm and follow your purpose. See you in the next video, and may God bless you.